Thank God. Thank you for not disappointing the expectations of these two old people. I'm sorry for not recognizing you that day. I'm sorry for losing you for so many years. Tu Tien also burst into tears, her trembling arms hugging her mother tightly. She could only choke out two words. Mom? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we will witness an extremely emotional moment, the moment that Tu Tien has been longing for many years, the fateful meeting between her and her long-lost biological mother. A tearful journey, which seemed to have no end, ended with a choked hug that no one expected. What led the mother and son to recognize each other? And what will Jack's reaction be when witnessing that moment of reunion? Let's follow this heart-touching story in its entirety. Over the past few days, Tang has been quietly carrying out the task assigned by Jack, investigating the mother and son named Tien and Mrs. Tui. They are suspicious people, appearing at the right time and seeming to be hiding something. With his careful and sensitive nature, Tang has secretly followed their every move, recording every action and word, even the smallest. Today, after many days of perseverance, there is finally a new step forward. Around mid-morning, Tang saw Mrs. Tui and Tien leaving the house with calculating faces. They turned towards the tea shop at the beginning of the village, a place with few people passing by but quiet enough for ambiguous conversations. Tang quietly followed, keeping a sufficient distance, his eyes never leaving the other two. Not long after, Mrs. Nan, Tu Tien's biological mother, appeared. Her figure thin, her face mixed with hope and worry. As soon as she sat down, Tien quickly showed enthusiasm, opening his mouth in a sad voice. Auntie, we have tried very hard, but finding your daughter is not as easy as we thought. Mrs. Tui immediately echoed, continuing smoothly as if she had prepared carefully in advance. Someone said she left to work in a restaurant in the district town. We went there, but they said she had quit her job a long time ago. And now we don't know where she went. We probably have to go all the way to the province to look for her. Tien added with a regretful look, then hedged his bets. Traveling, accommodation, and asking around are also very expensive. Auntie, and we have a limited amount of money. Please help us with a little more expenses so we can continue searching. Who knows, we might find a clue. Tang, who was standing behind a bamboo bush on the other side of the road, took the opportunity to raise his phone, capturing every moment clearly, especially when Mrs. Nan lowered her head to listen, an expression mixed with doubt and heartache. He knew that these pictures would be very important when he brought them back to Jack for review. Not only as evidence, but also as a warning. Mrs. Nan, after a moment of contemplation, seemed to have realized something unusual. Her eyes glanced around, but she did not show any panic. With the experience of a mother who had been led by life too many times in bitterness, she immediately changed her attitude. Okay, let me go home and prepare the money. I will bring it tomorrow. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were no longer as trusting as when she first arrived. She stood up, picked up her bag, and walked slowly towards the path leading into the village. Her hunched back, seemingly weak, was also full of caution and discretion, as if she was secretly examining everything. Behind her, Mrs. Tui and her son did not suspect anything. Tien gently slammed his hand on the table, sneering, "See, Mom, this deer is easy to lure. Tomorrow she will definitely bring the money." Mrs. Tui nodded, her greedy eyes flashing with satisfaction. "It's really a blessing from heaven. No need to find a child. Just talk and the money will come into your hands." Tang squinted his eyes and watched, a bad feeling rising in his heart. But he knew, this drama had only just begun. Right after taking the important photos, Tang did not hesitate for another minute. He took out his phone and called Jack. His voice was low, but he could not hide his urgency. "Jack, I took the photo. It's the woman that Chen's mother and son are trying to trick for money. See you at the old place. I'm waiting." Less than 15 minutes later, Jack was at the roadside cafe, the place he and Tang often used as a secret meeting place during their surveillance and investigation. Tang sat at a table in a hidden corner, holding a half-empty cup of black coffee, his eyes filled with tension. When Jack arrived, he did not say much, just quickly pulled out a stack of photos printed from his phone from his pocket. "Here, look, it's her. This woman seems to be being tricked by that mother and son for more money." Jack took the photos, glanced through them and suddenly stopped at a photo that clearly showed the face of an old woman. Her eyes sad, her face haggard, his heart skipped a beat, his eyebrows furrowed, his hand gripped the photo tighter. "No way," Jack muttered, his eyes not leaving the photo. The woman in the photo was Mrs. Nan, the person who had accidentally caused the accident a few days ago that injured Tu Tien. But ironically, after that accident, Mrs. Nan had taken Tu Tien to her house to take care of her. And until now she was still recuperating there. Jack looked up, his face unable to hide his shock. He looked at Tong, his voice hoarse. Could it be, Mrs. Nan is Tu Tien's biological mother? That question was like a shock in his mind. All the clues that had seemed to be separate for so long now seemed to be gradually strung together into a great truth waiting to be revealed. He was silent for a long time, his eyes looking far away, clearly calculating something. Then, after a few seconds of thinking, Jack turned back, his eyes determined. Tong, I need to ask you for one more thing. Extremely important. Tong nodded, without hesitation. Just say it. Please help me investigate everything about Mrs. Nan and her husband, their past, their family, where they lived, everything possible. I need to know who they are, whether they have children, and whether that child is related to Tu Tien or not. Tong frowned slightly but did not ask anything more. He understood that if Jack asked, this matter would definitely not be simple. Jack let out a breath, then continued, slowly but firmly. After you go investigate, I will return to Mrs. Nan's house, where Tu Tien is staying, to find an opportunity to take a DNA test. I want everything to be certain before telling her. I'm afraid, if the truth is not as I think, it will only disappoint her once more. The atmosphere in the restaurant seemed to suddenly become heavy. Amidst the sparse traffic on the street and the gentle wind blowing through the trees, both men were silent, each pursuing their own train of thought. But in Jack's eyes at this moment, there was no longer doubt, but determination. Whatever the answer was, he had to make it clear. For Tu Tien, for the past, and for the future that awaited him. Late afternoon, the sunlight had begun to fall through the trees in front of Mrs. Nan's gate. Jack stopped the car on the side of the road, slowly walked into the gate, still carrying a feeling of excitement mixed with expectation. He didn't know what was waiting for him ahead. But after the conversation with Tong this morning and the photos sent, Jack knew it was time to verify everything with the truth. As soon as he entered the yard, Jack saw a scene that made him stop in his tracks. Tu Tien was sitting and chatting with Mrs. Nan at the wooden tea table under the shady bougainvillea trellis. The two were laughing and talking. The gentle sunlight shining on Tu Tien's face made her even more radiant and full of life. Completely different from the constant anxiety before, she now seemed more peaceful and comfortable than ever. Jack stood there watching for a while, his eyes softening. A ray of hope welled up in his heart. If only everything were true, if only that woman was really her biological mother, how great that would be. He walked closer and greeted her gently. Hello, Grandma. Hello, Tu Tien. Mrs. Nan raised her head and smiled gently. You're back, son? Come, sit down here. Grandma and Tien are eating a cool orange. Have a bite to cool off. Tu Tien happily waved her hand and called out. Sit here, next to me. Jack walked over, pulled out a chair and sat next to her, smiling lightly. Mrs. Nan kindly cut him a piece of orange and pushed it in front of him. The oranges are from my garden, ripe from the tree, very sweet. Jack brought the orange to his mouth and chewed slowly. The sweetness spread on the tip of his tongue, but his heart was calculating each step carefully. After eating, he said softly, Grandma, can I go to the bathroom for a moment? Yes, go ahead. Mrs. Nan nodded, without the slightest doubt. Jack walked quickly inside and gently pushed open the old wooden bathroom door. He glanced around quickly. The blue plastic comb was hanging on the wall hook. Next to it was a toothbrush placed on a small shelf. Not missing the opportunity, he quickly observed the comb carefully, then carefully removed a long silver hair stuck in the comb's teeth, Mrs. Nan's hair. After that, he quietly picked up the pink toothbrush that Tu Tien used every day. Put both in the small plastic bag he had prepared. All actions took place in silence, quickly but with full concentration. When he was done, he washed his hands, adjusted his clothes and walked out as if nothing had happened. Grandma, Tu Tien, I'll go to the market for a bit to buy some food to cook lunch for us. Today I'll show off my skills, Jack said, smiling naturally. Yeah, that's fine. Buy something delicious. Mrs. Nan smiled, and Tu Tien looked at him with eyes full of anticipation. Remember to buy braised fish. I craved it yesterday but couldn't eat it. Jack nodded, quickly walked to the car. As soon as he sat in the driver's seat, he immediately took out his phone and called Tong. I got it, a strand of Mrs. Nan's hair and Tu Tien's toothbrush. Bring it to the testing center for me. The sooner the better. I'll take care of it. Tong replied firmly. Hang up. Jack started the car, drove to the central market. He bought some vegetables, meat and a fish, choosing the items while thinking about what was coming next. He knew that the test results could change everything. And he also knew that only when everything was really certain could he tell Tu Tien, because he didn't want her to live in hope again and then collapse in disappointment. The car turned away from the market, heading straight to the small house where a woman was still smiling, waiting for him to cook the first meal in a new chapter of her life. A few days later, when the sky had just brightened, Jack received a call from Tong. Tong's voice on the other end of the line was serious. "Jack, the results are here. Come to my place to get them." Jack's heart immediately beat faster. For the past few days, he had hardly slept because of waiting. He drove away immediately, his heart filled with excitement, his hands gripping the steering wheel as if to keep calm. When he arrived, Tong was already waiting, handing him a carefully sealed bag of documents. "Congratulations, but you can see for yourself." Jack nodded, sat down on a nearby wooden chair. He took a deep breath and slowly opened the envelope. His hands shook slightly as he pulled out the DNA test paper, his eyes glued to each line. And then, his heart felt like it was about to burst when he read the number 99.9%, the conclusion showing that Tu Tien and Mrs. Nan were related by blood. He sat silently for a few seconds. The emotions inside him surged in waves: joy, emotion, relief, and a deep happiness that choked him up. After so much pain, Tu Tien had finally found her biological mother. Without further hesitation, Jack hurriedly got in the car and returned to Mrs. Nan's house. On the way, only one thing rang in his head: I have to tell her right away. She deserves to know. When he got there, he saw the three of them, Mrs. Nan, Mr. Lam, and Tu Tien, sitting on the porch. They were chatting happily over a cup of tea as usual. Jack walked in, kept his composure, and nodded. "Hello, uncle and aunt." "Hello Tu Tien. Are you back?" Mrs. Nan said warmly, not knowing that the most emotional moment of her life was approaching. Jack sat down on the chair, looked at Mrs. Nan affectionately, and gently asked, "Auntie, may I ask, did you have a daughter before?" Hearing that, both Mr. Lam and Mrs. Nan were stunned. Her face fell, her eyes distant. She nodded slightly, her voice low. "Yes, we used to have a daughter. But since she was 5 years old, during a visit to the countryside, she got lost and disappeared. We searched for her forever, and have never seen her again." Her voice choked, her hands clasped together and trembled. At this moment, Jack gently took out the DNA test result from his pocket and brought it in front of the two of them. "I think I know where your daughter is." Mr. Lam opened his eyes wide to look at Jack, while Mrs. Nan tremblingly took the paper. When they read the conclusion, both of them suddenly froze. Then their eyes simultaneously turned to Tu Tien, the girl who was still bewildered. Not understanding what was going on, Mrs. Nan whispered, tears welling up, You are our daughter?" Tu Tien's eyes widened. She turned to Jack, her lips moving, unable to speak. Jack looked at her with loving eyes, smiling and nodding. She only had time to say, "Mom?" Mrs. Nan couldn't wait any longer. She rushed to hug Tu Tien, bursting into tears. "Thank God. Thank you for not letting down the expectations of these two old people. I'm sorry for not recognizing you that day. I'm sorry for losing you for so many years." Tu Tien also burst into tears, her arms trembling as she hugged her mother tightly. She could only choke out two words, "Mom?" That scene made Jack unable to hold back his happy smile. In the late morning sunlight, he silently watched the mother and daughter hug each other in tears of reunion, and a feeling of complete satisfaction rose in his heart. The person he loved had finally found her biological mother, and that miracle had come at the exact moment her life needed it most.